The alarm screamed through the small transport ship, looked at his control panel and saw three massive warships closing in fast. His hands moved quickly across the controls, but he knew it was useless. These were vessels, and they were built for hunting. The communications panel crackled to life. A rough, hissing voice filled the cabin. "Human vessel, cut your engines. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in your immediate destruction." Took a deep breath and powered down his ship. His fingers brushed against the small device hidden behind his ear, a neural implant that most civilians didn't have. He pressed it once, twice, 3 times. A tiny light blinked green. The message was sent. The docking clamps hit his ship with a heavy thud, stood up slowly and raised his hands above his head. He had been in worse situations before, though it had been 5 years since he left that life behind. 5 peaceful years of pretending to be a simple merchant, traveling between colonies, selling goods and living quietly. The airlock burst open with a violent hiss. 6 warriors stormed in, their reptilian faces twisted in aggressive sneers. They were tall, nearly 7 feet each, covered in dark green scales that looked like armor. Their yellow eyes gleamed with predatory excitement. The lead warrior grabbed by his collar and lifted him off the ground like he weighed nothing. "Another weak human," the alien growled, its forked tongue flicking out to taste the air. "You all break so easily." Said nothing. He kept his face calm, his breathing steady. The warrior threw him against the wall, and 2 others grabbed his arms, dragging him through the airlock and into their ship. The flagship was massive inside. Dark metal corridors stretched in every direction, lit by harsh red lights. The air was hot and smelled of sulfur. Was pulled through hallway after hallway, past groups of alien warriors who stopped to stare and laugh at the captured human. They threw him into a holding cell. The room was small, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet, with smooth metal walls and a single bench. The door slammed shut with a heavy clang and was alone. He sat down on the bench and took inventory of his injuries. His shoulder hurt from being thrown, and his ribs ached from where one of the warriors had struck him. Nothing broken, though, nothing that wouldn't heal. Closed his eyes and let his mind drift back to his training. The breathing exercises, the mental preparation, the techniques for resisting interrogation. It had been years, but the skills were still there, buried deep in his muscle memory. Hours passed, maybe a full day. It was hard to tell time in the cell. Finally, the door opened again. An officer entered, taller than the warriors who had captured him. This one wore dark armor with silver markings that suggested high rank. Behind him stood another officer, slightly smaller, watching everything with careful eyes. "I am Commander," the tall one said, his voice full of arrogance. "You are aboard my ship, human. You will tell me everything about your colony locations, your military positions, and your defensive capabilities." Looked up at the commander but said nothing. His yellow eyes narrowed. "The last human we captured talked after only 3 hours. How long will you last, I wonder?" He turned to his companion. "Sub-Commander, what do you think? Will this one break quickly?" Studied carefully. There was something different in his gaze, less cruelty and more calculation. "Commander, perhaps we should scan him first. Learn who he is before we proceed." "Nonsense," snapped. "They are all the same, weak, fragile, easy to break." He turned back to, "You have one chance, human. Tell me what I want to know and your death will be quick." Remained silent. He had learned long ago that words wasted during interrogation were words that could be used against you later. His face twisted in anger. He grabbed by the throat and lifted him up. "You think your silence makes you brave. It makes you a fool," he threw across the cell. Hit the wall hard and slid to the floor. Pain exploded in his back, but he didn't cry out. He got slowly to his hands and knees, then stood up again. "Interesting," said quietly. "Most humans stay down after a hit like that." Advanced on again, this time striking him in the stomach. Doubled over but forced himself to straighten up. The commander hit him again, and again. Each blow was calculated to cause maximum pain without killing. Finally, step back, breathing hard from the exertion. Take him back to his cell. Let him think about his situation. Tomorrow we continue. The warriors dragged out and threw him back into his cell. He lay on the cold floor, every part of his body screaming in pain, but his mind was clear. The implant had sent the signal. The message had gone out. Now he just had to survive until help arrived. If help arrived. No, he couldn't think like that. She had made him a promise years ago before he retired, a promise that he had laughed at, thinking he would never need it. If you ever get in trouble anywhere in the galaxy, she had said, her eyes serious despite her smile, I will find you, no matter what. Pulled himself onto the bench and leaned against the wall. His ribs were definitely cracked now. His face was swelling where it hit him. Blood dripped from his nose onto the floor. Just have to hold on, he whispered to himself. Just have to survive. Outside his cell, he could hear the warriors talking and laughing. They were celebrating another successful capture, another weak human who would break under torture and give them the information they wanted. But wasn't like the others they had captured. He had spent 10 years in Earth's special operations before retiring. He had survived interrogations before. He knew how to endure pain. He knew how to wait. And most importantly, he knew that somewhere out there, someone was coming for him. Someone who had never failed a mission. Someone who had never left a teammate behind. He just had to stay alive long enough for her to arrive. The lights in his cell dimmed to almost nothing, signaling the ship's night cycle. Closed his eyes, controlled his breathing, and began counting the seconds. Time became his enemy and his ally. The longer he lasted, the more chance she had to reach him. In the darkness, he smiled despite the pain. They had no idea what they had started. They thought they had captured a simple merchant, an easy target. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The interrogation room was worse than the cell. Bright lights burned down from above, so intense that had to squint. Metal restraints held his wrists and ankles to a chair bolted to the floor. The room smelled of fear and old blood. Commander circled him slowly, like a predator studying wounded prey. Sub-Commander stood near the door, his expression unreadable. Let us begin simply, said, his voice almost pleasant. What is your name? He answered, there was no point in hiding that. And what were you doing in this sector? Trading, delivering supplies to the outer colonies. Stopped in front of him. A merchant, how boring. He leaned down, his reptilian face inches from us. Tell me, merchant, why does a simple trader have a military-grade neural implant? His heart skipped a beat, but he kept his face blank. They had scanned him. Of course they had. I don't know what you're talking about, said. Straightened up and nodded too. The sub-commander touched a control panel on the wall, and a holographic image appeared in the air. It showed a scan of skull, with a small device clearly visible behind his right ear. This, said, pointing at the image, is not standard civilian technology. This is what your military uses. Special operations, if I'm not mistaken. He walked behind his chair. So let me ask again, who are you really? I told you, I'm a merchant. The first shock hit without warning. Electricity coursed through the chair and into his body. His muscles seized, his teeth clenched, and every nerve felt like it was on fire. It lasted only 3 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. When it stopped, gasped for air. Sweat poured down his face. That was level 1, said calmly. There are 10 levels. Shall we try again? Who are you? Raised his head and looked the commander in the eyes. A merchant. Level 2 was worse. The pain was sharper, deeper. His vision went white. When it stopped, he tasted blood in his mouth. He had bitten his tongue. Commander spoke up from his position by the door. Perhaps we should examine his background more thoroughly before continuing. Why? Snapped. He is just another human. They all break eventually. With respect, Commander, look at his scars. Stepped forward and pointed at his exposed arms. These are not the marks of a merchant. See this one? That's from a plasma burn. And this one on his shoulder. That's a knife wound, old but deep. This man has seen combat. Studied the scars with renewed interest. Is that true, human? Are you a soldier? Was said quietly. Not anymore. I left that life behind. Ah, a veteran then, smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Even better, you will have information worth extracting. Tell me about Earth's military defenses. I've been retired for 5 years. I don't know anything current. Level 3. This time screamed. He couldn't help it. The pain was too much. His body convulsed against the restraints, and for a moment he thought he might pass out. But he didn't. The shock was designed to cause maximum suffering without causing unconsciousness. Hours passed like this. Questions, refusals, pain. Asked about military bases, fleet positions, colony defenses. Said nothing useful. Sometimes he said nothing at all. Sometimes he lied, giving false information that sounded real enough to buy more time. Between sessions, they threw him back in his cell. He lay on the floor, unable to move, his body shaking from the aftereffects of the shocks. His mind drifted to memories of his old life. He remembered the training, the missions, the years spent in the darkness doing things that couldn't be talked about. He remembered his team, the people who had become closer than family, and he remembered her. Young me. They had been partners for 3 years, the best years of his service. She was everything a special operations agent should be, smart, fast, deadly, and absolutely loyal. They had saved each other's lives more times than he could count. When he decided to retire, she had understood. You deserve peace, she had said. Go find it. What about you? He had asked. She had smiled that dangerous smile of hers. I'm not done yet. They had kept in touch for the first year, then less frequently. He knew she was still active, still taking the missions that no one else could handle. He had heard rumors about her, stories that seemed impossible but knowing her, probably weren't. The cell door opened. It was alone this time. Water, the sub-commander said, offering a container. Pulled himself up and took it, drinking carefully. The cool liquid felt amazing on his raw throat. Why? Asked. Because I am not cruel for the sake of cruelty, replied. And because I think you are more important than the commander realizes. I'm nobody. That's what you want us to believe. Sat down on the bench across from him. I searched the human databases we captured from previous raids. I found several classified files about special operations units. Your description matches an agent named who served in the Ghost Company. His blood ran cold, but he didn't react. The Ghost Company, continued. Elite, dangerous, successful, you were part of something significant, weren't you? That was a long time ago. Perhaps, but men like you don't simply stop being who they are. Stood up. The commander will continue tomorrow. He will break you eventually or kill you trying. I suggest you consider cooperation. After left, lay back down. His body was failing. The torture was taking its toll. He had maybe 2 more days before he broke, maybe less. The next morning they came for him again. This time had a different approach. I will ask you one question, the commander said. Just one. Answer it and the pain stops. Refuse and we go to level 10. Waited. Where are Earth's new colonies in the Gamma sector? I don't know. His face twisted in rage. He activated the chair, but this time he didn't stop at level 10. He went beyond the scale, pushing the device to its limits. His world became nothing but white-hot agony. His mind fractured under the assault, and in that moment of desperation, something broke inside him. The careful control, the trained resistance, the wall he had built around his emotions, all of it crumbled. And he spoke. You should let me go, gasped when the shock finally stopped. His voice was barely a whisper. Let me go before she finds out. Landon, she, who is she? His head hung down, blood dripping from his mouth. Youngmi, her name is Youngmi, and when she comes, you'll all be dead. The commander laughed, a harsh barking sound. One human woman, you think we fear a female? You should, whispered. Tell your gods I'm sorry for what's coming. Laughed again and ordered him taken back to his cell. As the warriors dragged him away, Kaut's expression. The sub-commander looked worried. Back in his cell, lay on the cold floor and smiled despite the pain. He had done it. He had planted the seed. Now he just had to survive long enough to see if it grew into their nightmare. Couldn't sleep. The name the human had spoken kept echoing in his mind. Youngmi. It was just a name, nothing more. Yet something about the way had said it with such certainty despite his pain disturbed the sub-commander deeply. He sat at his personal terminal in his quarters, accessing the captured human databases. The Empire had been raiding human ships and colonies for months, stealing information, trying to understand this weak species that somehow kept expanding through the galaxy. Typed in the name, Youngmi. The search returned nothing at first. Then he added military terms, special operations, ghost company. The screen went black for a moment. Then a file appeared. It was heavily encrypted, but technology had broken through human security before, worked carefully, layer by layer, until the file opened. What he saw made his blood run cold. The file was marked with the highest level of human military classification. At the top was a photo of a woman, perhaps in her early 30s, with dark eyes that seemed to look right through the camera. Below the photo was a list of operations, missions, and statistics that seemed impossible. Youngmi, Special Operations Agent, the Reaper. Read through the file with growing horror. Mission success rate, 100%, no failures, no defeats, no missions abandoned. The list of her accomplishments read like something from a nightmare. 3 years ago, she had infiltrated a prison planet run by the Empire, a species known for their brutal treatment of captives. The planet held 200 human prisoners. Youngmi went in alone. She came out with all 200 prisoners and the prison was left in ruins. Casualties, 3,000. 2 years ago, a war criminal named the Destroyer had been hiding in a fortress surrounded by his personal army. Earth sent Youngmi. She eliminated and his entire command structure in one night. Enemy casualties, over 1,500. She walked out without a scratch. 18 months ago, a human colony was under siege by a pirate fleet. Earth military couldn't reach them in time. Youngmi could. She took a single fighter ship and somehow destroyed 4 enemy vessels and crippled 2 more. The pirates fled. The colony was saved. The list went on and on. Every mission impossible. Every target eliminated. Every friend rescued. She never left anyone behind. Ever. Found intelligence reports from other alien species. They called her the Shadow of Death. They called her the Unstoppable. A warrior species that prided itself on combat prowess called her the only human we fear. There were stories, rumors that the other species told to scare each other. Some said she could phase through walls. Others said she could predict enemy movements before they made them. Some claimed she was augmented with experimental technology that made her more machine than human. But one thing was consistent in every report. If you captured one of her people, she would come for them, and she would bring hell with her. Stood up quickly and rushed to the commander's quarters. He hit the door chime repeatedly until answered, looking annoyed. This better be important. Commander, you need to see this. Pushed past him and activated his personal data pad, displaying the file. Looked at it dismissively. A human soldier, so what? Not just a soldier, Commander. Look at her record. Look at what she's done. Scrolled through the file, his expression gradually changing from annoyance to interest to something that might have been concern. This can't all be real, he said finally. No single being could accomplish this much. I thought so too, so I cross-referenced with our own intelligence reports. pulled up more files. The prison break, real. We have reports from survivors. The assassination, real. Our scouts found his fortress. Everyone inside was dead. The pirate fleet, real. We intercepted their distress calls before they fled. Was quiet for a long moment. This female, this young me, she is real. Very real, Commander. And according to this file, she and our prisoner were partners for 3 years. The file says they had a perfect operational record together. 63 missions, 63 successes. Partners, repeated slowly. So when he said she would come, he meant it, Commander. She has never abandoned a teammate. According to every report, every story, every legend, she always comes. Always. Walked to the viewport in his quarters and looked out at the stars. His ship, the Devourer's Maw, was the pride of the fleet. 300 warriors, the best weapons, the strongest shields. He had conquered dozens of worlds. He feared nothing. But doubt crept into his mind like poison. How would she even know he was captured? Asked. The neural implant said quietly. It's not just military grade, it's special operations gear. It probably has a distress beacon, if he activated it before we caught him. Spun around, could she already be coming? Commander, she could already be here. Meanwhile, far away on Earth, in a military command center deep underground, an officer named Jin sat at her desk reviewing reports. She was 45 years old, with gray streaking her black hair. She had been in military intelligence for 20 years and had seen things that still haunted her dreams. A light blinked on her secure terminal, an old code, one she hadn't seen in 5 years. Her hands trembled as she opened the file. It was a distress beacon, neural implant signature, location space, status captured. No, she whispered, had retired. He was supposed to be safe, living quietly as a merchant. What was he doing in territory? It didn't matter. What mattered was getting him out. Jin pulled up the rescue protocols, but she already knew what they would say. Space was too far, too dangerous. Any official rescue mission would take weeks to organize and would likely start a war. Command would say he was on his own. But Jin hadn't risen to her position by following rules she disagreed with. She closed the official files and opened a different one, a private file, one that wasn't supposed to exist. She typed in a single command and the screen changed. A communication link, encrypted so heavily that even Earth's own intelligence agencies couldn't crack it. The link connected, and after a moment, a voice answered. Jin, it's been a while. Young me, we have a problem. There was a pause. Is it? His beacon just activated. He's been captured by the... Another pause, longer this time. When Young Me spoke again, her voice was different, colder, harder. Send me his location. Young Me, this isn't official. If you do this, Earth won't back you up. You'll be on your own. I'm always on my own. Location now. Jin sent the coordinates. He's on their flagship, the Devourer's Maw. Young Me, they have 300 warriors on that ship. Then 300 families are about to lose someone. The connection cut off. Jin sat back in her chair and closed her eyes. She had just unleashed something that the galaxy wasn't ready for, but was one of theirs, and they didn't abandon their own. She opened another file and began typing. When this was over, there would be consequences. She might lose her position, maybe even face charges, but that was a problem for later. Right now, somewhere in the galaxy, a woman who had spent 2 years trying to live a quiet life was packing her gear. The Reaper was coming out of retirement. And the Empire had no idea what was about to hit them. The alarm started screaming at exactly 300 ship time. Commander jerked awake in his quarters, his heart pounding. He activated his communication panel. Report. Commander, we have an unidentified vessel entering the system. The tactical officer's voice was tight with tension. It appeared out of nowhere. No jump signature, no energy spike. It's just there. Rush to the bridge right behind him. The main showed the ship, small, sleek, painted matte black that seemed to swallow light. It had no markings, no identification codes, no transponder signal. "Hail them," ordered. "No response, Commander." "Then fire a warning shot." The weapons officer launched a plasma bolt that should have crossed the ship's bow. Instead, the black ship moved, impossibly fast, and the bolt missed by miles. How did it? The weapons officer stared at his screen in disbelief. "All ships attack formation," commanded. The fleet consisted of 15 vessels. Surely that was enough to stop one small ship. The black ship accelerated toward them. The fleet opened fire, hundreds of weapons lighting up space with deadly energy. The small ship weaved through the barrage like it was dancing, never slowing down. "It's heading straight for us," said quietly. "Impossible. Our shields will destroy it on impact." The black ship didn't slow down. At the last possible second, it rotated and fired something at the flagship's shield generators. The explosion was precise, surgical. The shields flickered and died. "Shields down," someone shouted. The black ship latched onto the hull near one of the docking ports. Cutting torches flared to life, slicing through the reinforced armor like it was paper. "Seal that section," ordered. "Send security teams, kill whoever comes through." 20 warriors rushed to the docking port, weapons ready. The hull breach completed, and a single figure dropped through the hole. The warriors opened fire immediately. The figure moved like liquid shadow, rolling, diving, too fast for their weapons to track. By the time they adjusted their aim, 3 of them were already dead, dropped by silent shots from a weapon that barely made a sound. The figure was human, female, dressed in black armor that seemed to blend with the shadows. Her face was covered by a tactical mask, but her eyes were visible, cold, focused, deadly. Young Mi had arrived. She moved through the warriors like death itself. Her weapons were precise, headshots, heart shots, every round counting. When she ran out of ammunition, she didn't hesitate. She dropped one gun, pulled a blade from her thigh, and closed the distance. The warriors were trained, experienced, and strong. It didn't matter. Young Mi fought like someone who had done this 1,000 times before. She knew where they would strike before they moved. She turned their strength against them, using their size and momentum to throw them off balance. In less than 2 minutes, all 20 warriors were down. Young Mi didn't stop to check them. She accessed the ship's computer terminal and downloaded the layout. One location appeared highlighted on her wrist display, the detention level. She moved through the corridors like a ghost. When patrols appeared, she killed them before they could raise the alarm. When security doors tried to stop her, she bypassed them with equipment that shouldn't exist outside of Earth's classified laboratories. On the bridge, watched the security feeds in horror. Warrior after warrior fell to this single human. She moved through his ship like she owned it, and nothing they did could stop her. "How many?" he asked. 17 dead so far, Commander," the tactical officer reported. "No, wait, 22, 25. She's moving too fast. We can't coordinate a defense." "She's heading for the detention level," said. "For the prisoner." "Made a decision. Execute all prisoners now." "Commander, that's against." "Do it." Looked at his superior officer for a long moment. Then he did something he had never done before. He refused an order. "No, Commander. We are warriors, not murderers." "What did you say?" "I said no." Drew his sidearm and pointed it at the detention-level security officer. "Release the human prisoner, now." The officer looked between and, confused, adjusted his aim and fired, destroying the control panel. Alarms blared as all the cell doors opened simultaneously. In his cell, heard the door unlock. He pulled himself to his feet, every movement sending pain through his broken body. The corridor outside was empty. He stumbled forward, leaning against the wall for support. He heard footsteps, fast and light. He tried to raise his hands to defend himself, but his body wouldn't cooperate. Then she was there. Youngmi stopped in front of him, her mask pulled down. For a second, her cold expression softened. "You look terrible," she said. Managed a weak smile. "You're late." "Traffic." She moved to his side, supporting his weight. "Can you walk?" "I can try." They moved through the corridors together. When enemy warriors appeared, Youngmi put behind her and engaged them. Even injured and weak, helped where he could, grabbing dropped weapons and covering their retreat. They were halfway to the docking port when they ran into Commander. The commander stood in the center of the corridor, fully armed and armored, with 24 warriors behind him. "You've killed many of my warriors," Human said. "I will give you credit for that, but it ends here." Youngmi gently moved to the side, making sure he was behind cover. Then she stood in the middle of the corridor and faced the commander. "You touched one of mine," she said simply. "That was your mistake." Bold words for someone outnumbered. "I'm not outnumbered. I'm in a target-rich environment." Charged and his warriors followed. Youngmi met them head-on. What followed was less a fight and more a demonstration of what a human pushed to their absolute limit could do. Youngmi's movements were faster than thought, powered by technology and training that had cost Earth millions to develop. But it was more than that. It was rage, pure and focused, directed at those who had hurt someone she cared about. The warriors fell one by one. Youngmi took hits, her armor cracked and blood seeped from wounds, but she didn't slow down. If anything, she moved faster, fought harder. Finally, only remained. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds, his armor shattered. Youngmi stood before him, holding a blade to his throat. "Please," he gasped, "mercy." Youngmi leaned close. "Did you show him mercy when he was in your chair?" "Said nothing." "You're going to live," Youngmi said. "Not because you deserve it, but because you're going to deliver a message. Tell every species in this galaxy what happens when you touch a human. Tell them what I am. Tell them we protect our own. Always." She lowered the blade and stepped back, collapsed against the wall, defeated and humiliated. Youngmi returned to and helped him to his feet. They made their way to her ship, passing through corridors filled with bodies and damaged systems. As they reached the docking port, looked at the destruction around them. "How many?" he asked quietly. 87 enemy casualties," Youngmi replied without emotion. 0 friendly casualties." They entered her ship, and Youngmi sealed the hatch. The black vessel detached from the flagship and accelerated away. The remaining ships didn't pursue. Inside the ship, Youngmi helped into the medical pod. As the healing systems activated, he caught her hand. "Thank you," he said. "I made you a promise," Youngmi replied. "I don't break promises." As the medical pod's sedatives took effect, his last thought was that the galaxy had just learned an important lesson. Humanity might seem weak, but they never abandoned their own. And they had something more dangerous than any weapon. They had Youngmi. 2 weeks had passed since the incident on the Devourer's Maw. The galaxy was still processing what had happened. The Empire had withdrawn all their ships from human space immediately. Their High Council had issued an official statement declaring human vessels off-limits to all patrols. They didn't explain why. They didn't need to. Everyone had heard what happened. One human had boarded their flagship. One human had killed 87 of their warriors. One human had rescued her captured teammate and left their commander alive only to spread the message. The Reaper was real, and humanity was not to be touched. Sat on the porch of his small house on a colony world called Haven's Rest. His injuries had healed, thanks to the advanced medical systems on Youngmi's ship and the treatment he received when they returned to Earth. The physical wounds were gone, but the memories remained. The door opened behind him and Youngmi came out carrying 2 cups of tea. She had bought the house next to his when they returned. Neither of them spoke about why. They both knew. "Jin sent another message," Youngmi said, handing him a cup. Earth Command wants to officially thank me for rescuing you. They also want to officially reprimand me for starting an interstellar incident. Smiled, that sounds about right. What did you tell them? I told them I retired 2 years ago and wasn't subject to their authority. Youngmi sat down next to him. Jin said they laughed and sent me a medal anyway. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple. It was peaceful here, far from the politics and dangers of the core worlds. Do you ever regret it? Asked. Coming to get me, you could have stayed hidden, lived your quiet life. Youngmi looked at him with those dark eyes that had terrified so many enemies. But when she looked at, there was only warmth. Not for a second, she said. You were my partner, my friend. I wasn't going to let them hurt you. Still, continued, now everyone knows you're real. The legend has a face again. They'll come looking for you when the next crisis happens. Let them try. Youngmi sipped her tea. I made it clear to Jin, I'm retired unless one of our own needs help. Other than that, I'm done. A ship flew overhead, probably heading to the spaceport in the next valley. Life continued as normal for most people. They didn't know that two of humanity's most dangerous operatives were living quietly among them. His communicator beeped. He checked it and smiled. Bin sent another message. She wants to know if the stories about you are true. Bin was a young officer in Earth's fleet, stationed nearby. She had heard the legends about Youngmi and had been trying to meet her hero for days. What did you tell her? Youngmi asked. That you're just a person who's good at her job. That's boring. Tell her I can kill someone with a spoon and make it look like an accident. Laughed. It felt good to laugh. He hadn't done much of that in the weeks after his capture. The sun continued to set, and the stars began to appear. Somewhere out there, alien species were telling stories about what happened to The story had grown with each retelling. They told their children about the human called the Shadow, who could walk through walls and couldn't be killed. They whispered about the warrior who moved faster than light and left only death in her wake. The proud and mighty spoke with grudging respect about the human who had proven that size and strength meant nothing compared to skill and determination. A young journalist named Min had contacted them 3 times, wanting to write their story. Youngmi had ignored all his messages. Some stories didn't need to be told. But the story told itself anyway. In military academies across human space, instructors taught new lessons. They talked about loyalty, about never leaving a teammate behind, about the bond between soldiers that transcended orders and politics. They talked about the Ghost Company and its perfect record. They talked about his resistance to torture and his faith that help would come. And they talked about Youngmi, the Reaper, who proved that one person with enough determination could change everything. Young people across the colonies looked up at the stars and dreamed of being like her. They enlisted in the military, trained harder, pushed themselves further, all hoping to be half as good as the legend. Youngmi hated that part. She didn't want to be anyone's hero. She had just done what needed to be done. I got a message from, said, breaking the silence. Youngmi looked surprised. The sub-commander, what did he want? He wanted to thank me. For what? For teaching him something important. Pulled up the message and read it aloud. He wrote, I released you because it was the right thing to do, because warriors must have honor. Your friend taught me that there are things more important than following orders. She came for you despite impossible odds. That is loyalty. That is strength. The Empire has learned from this. We will not forget. Youngmi was quiet for a moment. He's the one who let you out. Yes, probably saved my life. Had ordered my execution. Then I'm glad I didn't kill him. They finished their tea as the stars grew brighter. The galaxy felt different now, like something fundamental had shifted. Humanity had always been seen as weak, fragile, easy prey, but the events on the Devourer's Maw had changed that perception. Humans might not be the strongest or the fastest. They might not have natural weapons or armor, but they had something that many species lacked, an absolute refusal to abandon their own people. And that made them dangerous. His communicator beeped again. He looked at the message and his expression changed. "What is it?" Youngmi asked. "Distress beacon. Human vessel captured by pirates in the Zeta Quadrant." Youngmi set down her teacup. Her body language shifted instantly from relaxed to alert. "How many crew?" she asked. 12 civilian transport." Youngmi stood up and walked to the edge of the porch. She looked up at the stars, calculating distances, planning routes, assessing threats. Youngmi said carefully, "You said you were retired." "I said I was retired unless one of our own needed help." She turned to look at him. 12 people are out there, scared and alone. They think no one's coming. The fleet can handle it. The fleet is 3 days away. Those people might not have 3 days. Youngmi headed for her door. "I'm going, you don't have to come." Stood up, wincing slightly as his still healing ribs protested. "Like I'd let you have all the fun." Youngmi smiled, that dangerous smile that meant someone was about to have a very bad day. "Then gear up, we leave in 20 minutes. As they prepared for departure, the peaceful colony world of Haven's Rest continued its quiet existence. Most people there would never know that the Reaper lived among them. They would never know that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't some advanced technology or massive warship. It was 2 people who refused to let their own be taken without a fight. Young Mi's black ship lifted off silently in the night. It rose through the atmosphere and disappeared into the stars, leaving no trail, no signature, nothing to mark its passage. Somewhere in the Zeta Quadrant, a group of pirates were about to learn the same lesson they had learned. You don't touch humanity's people. Because if you do, the Reaper will come. And the Reaper never fails. The galaxy had entered a new era. Humanity was no longer seen as weak prey. They were a species that protected their own with a ferocity that bordered on legendary. They had warriors who could match any species in combat, not through superior strength, but through superior will. And they had Youngmi. The name that had once been a whisper, a rumor, a story to scare children was now known throughout the galaxy. Some species feared it, some respected it, all remembered it. Because in the end, that's what the story had taught them. Humans might fall, might bleed, might even die. But they never, ever abandoned their own. And sometimes, just sometimes, that makes all the difference. The stars stretched out infinite and cold before Young Mi's ship as it jumped to faster-than-light speed. Inside, 2 veterans prepared their weapons and checked their gear, ready to prove once again that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their numbers. It was their refusal to leave anyone behind. No matter the cost. No matter the odds. Always.